Sunday afternoon in the Trader Script. Today, we are here for our Sunday school charting because who cannot resonate with Sunday school? I know I had to go to Sunday school growing up, so that's partly why it's named that. But we are here today on October 29th, and we are going to do this thing today. So, and figure out what our moves are for this week. Look at the chart, go over some charting basics, go over how I chart and my process and thinking and everything. And then from there we'll look and see how you guys agree. And then we will go from there and see what type of setups we potentially have. Of course, with the primary focus on ES and SPY, but we'll go from there. The only thing I think I wanted to bring up to you guys today was, I have notes, hold on. I'll come back to it. I'll bring it up before the end of the call. Okay, so let's get started let's see if there's any news that came up this weekend. We'll do mindset, of course. I didn't really sharpen my cards today. I'm kind of a little off, but we're good. We'll do a little fundamentals, do mindset, of course, fundamentals, and then we'll get right into it. And see what happened for this week. Oh, this is an announcement because I knew I wrote something. Okay. And it's on a different page. All right. So what I'm going to do, schedule changes. All right. Bookkeeping or housekeeping. Schedule changes. What I'm planning on doing is aligning the calls. All right. Now you guys are like my VIP group members of such. And I have a few different ideas for the crib as I am looking to grow it and figuring out the best ways to how to grow it. So the first thing up, and to get new people who, are like us when we started our journey, which most of us, of course, started with Terry, and that's cool. And now we're here, and that's cool. But we want to influence others, maybe in a different route, than what, how we were influenced, right? And so my first thought is to change the schedule to where instead of doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of live day trading, Sundays will stay the same. So Sundays isn't changing. I think every other Sundays works perfectly. The charts don't change that much. But when it comes to the daily calls, we can align them with the Forex Factory red folders. How y'all feel about that? Like every call be aligned with the Forex Factory red folder event. Like the whole Trader Script schedule. Thoughts? I'm open up the floor. Raise your hand. Anything? How does that sound to you guys? Because what it does is it'll open up other days. And then it still actually keeps the same amount of calls that I was originally doing per month. That could work with the times would be good and great question, Whitney. So Whitney, the times would be the same. It would just be that the date of the calls would be on the red folder days. Because we know we have more volatility on those days. Like we know this. Now, that's not saying that we can't get a big move on a day that's not it, but that's the days that we're going to learn what we're going to do with them, being like we're going to either not be on a call or we're not going to trade or we're going to trade it and take this risk or whatever boundary we're going to put in place for our own personal trading plan is what we're going to do. Does that make sense? It's actually the same amount of calls, Marsha. It really is, because you got to remember that you have some weeks of the Forex Factory where we have a red folder every day. So that means we'll have a whole week of calls. So, you know how on the website I post that calendar, that calendar that I created that shows you like what the schedule is. That schedule is now going to align with the red folder Forex Factory for a whole month, and that's going to be when we meet up, so we can capitalize the most volatile days together. Does that? I hear Whitney feeling me already. Does that make sense, Marsha? I want to hear from the old school in the house. Um, Claudia, Fatima, because like you, if you recall, like if it wasn't like last week or at least within the last 2 weeks, where we had a week where every day was a red folder, and then you have some weeks where it's only like 2 days, and then you have it fluctuates. But if you combine the month, then it's about the same amount of calls, give or take, like less than 5. Because you got to also remember that some months have 5 weeks. So it's not by much if it does fluctuate. All right. I'm assuming y'all are just like, okay, cool, that's cool, Rain, that works. We're still getting the calls in. Okay. Just making sure y'all good. Just making sure y'all good. Yeah. All right. So that's the first major change. Thank you, Marsha. That makes me feel great. And the other changes, they're not really going to pertain to you guys, being that you guys are kind of like my VIP group of traders, and me starting this journey with the Traders Crib and doing this. So I kind of want to put you guys in a different category. So this upcoming Friday is going to be our monthly free webinar call that I am doing, more promotional, more about those calls to kind of just ramp up like newer people. And within that, I'm gonna kind of repackage what the website looks like versus it just being like live day trading. For it to be like the course wrapped up in the live day trading with this flow chart that I have kind of constructed with along with Fibonacci and fair value gaps, and like when to get in and when to get out. As like a bundle. You guys have already paid for my live day trading. So the only thing that I'll be offering to you guys is what Kim and Tammy already have, which is a lifetime membership to be in this like exclusive group as we have chatted about other things. Let's see who's in the house today. Okay, Esther and them aren't there, but some of you guys already recall, and of course the playback will be here. Will be there for those for Esther and a few other people who missed this call, but basically just kind of like offering like, okay, if you want to kind of stop paying routinely and kind of want to lock yourself in as being like a member and access and like doing these other things that we have spoke about as far as trips and things that was Traders Crib that just is going to expand and kind of be that exclusive member, that be more on the inside because you guys like help me grow. It's kind of like my extension back to you to be on the inside of the business as I grow, right? Is what I will be offering to you as I repackage what I offer to everybody else. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. I get a thumbs up or anything about somebody. Because this has been a very interesting year and some change of journey through our trading journey, and we really created this bond, and I want our union to help others kind of recognize what we have and feel inclusive about it, right? So bringing you guys in further into that vision. If you are up for it, of course, you do not have to opt for it. It will be a personal email to you, invitation to opt in or out, and then go from there. And so to further expand and welcome more people into it and just kind of ride with this whole vibe. Is that's kind of where my mind is going. So the overall immediate changes for you guys, because I am planning to make these changes effective this week. So this week we'll have the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? We'll skip Thursday. Our Forex factory for this week actually, hold on a second, um, aligns with that, with the exception of Thursday, because there is a red folder on Thursday. But because I'm doing Friday and because I'm doing the Friday like free webinar, and because this is the first week kind of integrating it, I will just kind of leave this week as like it kind of like as it is, or as I would have always, and then moving into next week, because I'll be 4 calls this week anyway, so it's only 1 call, and I kind of want to keep that. It's just great. But there are 2 weeks we will do 5, and it'll be right in the morning, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. There'll be 5 calls a week. That gives more availability to those who have different schedules, right? And then it prioritizes, well, I'll get on a call when I know there's a day we can make some money, right? Like it just kind of makes sense. I don't want to be wasting, because I don't want to waste my time. So I don't waste y'all time. All right. Like time is everything. All right. Well, most of us are mothers. Ain't nobody got time for that. So then the following week, we can go further into aligning the schedule. So the November schedule that will be posted will align with the Forex Factory folders. So that's the major change that will be coming immediately, with the exception of the first week in Thursday, because Thursday here is at 8:30. All right. So, but we'll get more into what that folder is in a second. Any questions about that? Any like hard resistance? I know y'all rocking with me, do rocking. I love you guys. I really, really do. But overall, feedback is great. Like feedback helps me. It's not in a matter of like opposition or like argument. It's more of like, what can I do to better, help my customers, and work with them. So please feel free to shoot it back at me if you so choose. And if you don't want to do it here in this platform, feels too open, send me a direct Telegram message. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, since I don't see anything in the chat, here we go with mindset. And we are today looking at bliss. And so I went back to my overall cards today because I didn't pull my book, and then we'll get into my book first thing tomorrow morning. So I seek and find peace, quietness, and moments of bliss in my life. And I am persistent in this quest. I allow myself to feel divine presence radiating within and around me. I allow myself to create abundance and fulfillment and live a life free of fear. Meditation is part of my life. All right. So finding places of bliss, enjoying the small things of life. It's Sunday. So I think what I'm going to do is Sunday kind of focus on like a little bit of grounding cards, emotional stuff, because I am a female, right? And then hashing out the week, the daily calls with some of that more like daily laws, affirmation stuff to really hone in our trading when we're executing these trades, like, during the week, like that hunger part of the week, the hunger grind that we all feel of the weekday. And even though our weekday kind of starts today, because we will trade today, we're going to ease into it with calm and then pick up speed, right? So that's kind of how I'm saying it. All right. Thank you, Whitney. I appreciate that. Okay. So let's get into some fundamentals, and then let's go from there into the charts today, and do some charting basics. So let's do an overview of what's to come this week with Forex Factory. So first and foremost, we do not have any red folders tomorrow, so we'll see what type of liquidity grabs, the general liquidity grabs the market may do. And then on Tuesday is when we have two red folders, one starting at 8:30 in pre-market with the employment cost index, and then CB consumer confidence at 10 a.m. with side note, I know not everybody puts their camera on. I do encourage you guys, but I don't encourage as much, but I do allow it. Tandra's one of the few people that, boldly just be like, hey y'all, I'm in St. Pete, which I love. Maria's another one be like, hey y'all, I'm in Ohio, right? But it's Halloween. So I extra encourage you to show your face and be like, hey, and if you don't want to dress up, because I'll be dressed up, but if you don't want to dress up, don't dress up. But be like, hey, this is me because it's Halloween. Let me reveal my hidden mask this time of being in the trader script this whole time. Let me do something new, right? And I'm just festive like that. And Halloween's is one of my favorite festive holidays, right? And me and Jay are about to kill this whole, which I think I've already said before, but I'm gonna say it again. Wednesday and Morticia Adams Halloween costume, because I think that's just fire. But anyway, all right, let's get back to this. So October 31st, we'll be here, and those are the two red folders. On Wednesday, November 1st, tipping into November, we're coming to the end of the year, Thanksgiving time. 8:15 a.m., we have the ADP non-farm employment change with the 10 a.m. ISM manufacturing PMI and JOLTS job opening, along with beginning of the month coming in strong, the FOMC press conference at 2 p.m. So we most likely will not cover, the afternoon outside of the Telegram chat. I really have to take it by ear of what I can host in the afternoon. But I know we'll be here in the morning to talk about it and to catch any little liquidity grabs, 10 handles, whatever we can get in the morning and kind of be out of the way, and then plan better for the afternoon move or jump into the afternoon move once we see if it's maybe taking off on a larger move, whatever it may be. But this is, a hot day here on Wednesday. So depending on what this federal funds rate comes in as, we will probably see a significant drop in the market. And then Thursday, we have the 8:30 a.m. unemployment claims. And then Friday, we have 8:30 a.m. average hourly earnings, non-farm employment change, and unemployment rate, as well as ISM services PMI at 10 a.m. So what we want to do, like I said, Thursday, we're going to be skipping that day as far as live trading, even with this new announcement of the schedule. Just because I want to do my little free event on Friday to introduce November, top-down analysis, do that whole shebang. Make sure you guys register. You guys should know the deal on those free events on Friday, that if you are currently a member, you will need to just do a quick little login registration for these events. But other than that, this is the Forex Factory week roundup that we are looking for this week. Moving forward, I didn't pull all tabs, but they're right here. CNBC. All right. And anything that's new live and that we need to be aware of. Balances break into UN warehouse in Gaza. Okay, so this, of course, we expect to see some headlines around news involving war like this. So we'll just keep that. And, I hate war. It makes me all sensitive because it's just, there's so many innocent people that get affected by it. And so it's saddening. So we'll see how that continues to affect our economy, our global economy as a whole. And then with Benzinga, we have Elon Musk Starlink aims to boost Gaza's connectivity amid Israel's concerns. Okay, a little interesting there. I will have to read into that article. I can follow with you guys on Monday if you guys think it'll be interesting with Mr. Elon Musk interesting plans to take over the world. I feel like I really do feel like Elon Musk like watched too much Pinky in the Brain or something. Like he is just like trying to do interesting things to take over the world. So it says Starlink. What is Starlink? He sounds like a one of y'all said it before, right? Like a why is his name? Stark, Iron Man. Y'all follow me. I feel like he's trying to be one of them too. So anyway, uh you guys are more than welcome to like dive deep into the article if you choose, as far as like if you like to choose Tesla and things like that. Um, what Elon Musk is doing tends to affect that stock. So we'll see. But overall, that's the overall headline that they choose for Benzinga for this afternoon. And we'll just keep an eye on news because it'll definitely change by tomorrow morning when we wake up, right? So that's the overall fundamentals. That's not the way for you guys for this evening. Now, to recap and do like a weekly analysis of last week and rechart our charts. All right. What we're all here for, starting with the futures. Are you guys ready? Ready, get set. All right, let's go. So we have this great upward movement since about March 13th of 2023, right? We're coming up. And then we start to pull downward as of July, end of July, excuse me, y'all. Let me take a sip. And this is, of course, a weekly view of the futures. And we're coming down into, we broke past, if you guys know, as we broke past this W pattern and this little like hand shoulder here, and so or cup and handle as some may want to call it, and we have broken past that with last week's weekly candle, which means we'll most likely come down and break down the bottom of this W-ish. I won't call it ish because it's there, okay, pattern. All right, and I'm only talking about the most recent lows. I'm not counting this one just yet. All right, I'm just kind of pausing one level at a time because we can make money that way. Okay, and I will kind of like take the bottom of this level here, and it's weekly. I didn't even hit that one. Meant to make this a straight line like this. All right, and we can of course label it step by steps on how we want to label our charts, and we can do like weekly support level. Now your support, you can have a support level. I don't know if you guys recall from last week, I had support zones because of the way the pattern has shifted. If you prefer to put a candle, a line in this candle with candles right here, this dip, right? And you want to make it a zone, by all means, make it a zone. Trader's choice on how you chart it. I don't care as long as you acknowledge that it is key support because it's on a weekly time frame. Somewhere between 4104.75 and 3991.50. Good? Okay. Let's keep going. You guys let me know if you're not good. And then go from there. So it's up to you how you guys want to do it. But you can kind of chart it like that. And you can even take this, based on some of the other traders in the house and how we trade. You can even look at this as like a weekly gap that, it has been wicked through on both sides. So you may want to place a line more at the top of it, suggesting that it may bounce, and then acknowledge in your label that it's also a gap, right? So therefore why it's bouncing, or that it could fill. So you could, I don't know how you want to get fancy with your lines. You could do like, this is the support. So what if we did something like, and this is just example purposes, I may just leave it because it may just work for me this week. Who knows? I mean, to put an alert, I want to put a label that says like weekly support. So maybe my weekly support zone gap. I don't know, get creative with it, y'all. I get creative. I am very much so a creative. And then you can say, that's the gap open. And then you can just put like weekly gap close. And if you want to change colors, that's up to you. But overall, this is what we're doing. And then you can even use this line. So this is your gap little level, right? I mean zone, sorry. Between 56, excuse me, or between 40.56 and 40.39.50 is your zone, right? And then at 39.91, you can be like, that's the level. So we can have zones and levels, because who says we can? That's how I see it. Like, make your own rules. All right. So you can acknowledge it like that, and then not too crowded on a chart. And then as we acknowledge the top side of resistance, we will come up here to, of course, acknowledge our tweezer top, because it's the most obvious candlestick pattern that we have. We'll change colors to red for resistance. And or you could do two options here, because we have a consecutive amount of candles, because I would say we have the tweezer top, but then we also have this little pin, this not little pin, but this, like, I would say significant wick hammer pin. And then this candle here, that was formed on September 25th, is at a level, as you guys can kind of see. It's like didn't break up further up top. So if you want, you can acknowledge the tweezer top area-ish. It's a little bit off, but it's pretty much there. And you can be like, all right, that's going to be my level of resistance on the top. Or because you see the fair value gap, you can acknowledge the fair value gap. Now, I would say in this area, it's risky, and I would go with, because we're on the weekly, such a strong high time frame, I would go with whichever level is closer to current price, meaning the lower, or like, because if I marked both levels that I'm speaking of, right, which is a 43.55, and the opening of the fair value gap is a 43.84. If I were to mark both of these, I would say that the 43.55 would be my target level before the 43.84, due to the fact that I know this is a level of candles that couldn't be broken as far as candle bodies go. And then I know that there's a gap before I get to that weekly fair value gap. So you need to label it as such, so you know that there's. So what you could do, again, example, and I'll do it. We'll change this to red, and then that first line will be like weekly. So we'll do like weekly fair value gap open, so you understand the space between. So as we know that that's the weekly fair value gap line. And then we can do this one like something weekly. Randy spelled weekly correctly. Weekly, what y'all want to call it? Any suggestions? No, don't care. Tweezer top. We'll make it simple, right? Because we know we got to scale down to a smaller time frame. Weekly tweezer top. All right. Just so you know, like that's, a major level, right? We can see that it's a stair level, shoulder, whatever, based on where current price it closed on Friday, right? All right. Key support resistance on a weekly level. Boom, bam, done. Don't need to do nothing else. You can, if you choose, trader's choice on how many lines you can take, as long as your labels are right. You can mark the close of this fair value gap. I don't see nothing wrong with it. When you scroll down into or zoom into a smaller time frame, it can be beneficial to know why you stuck that line there. All right. And then, of course, what we can also do, because I'm just not noticing it, to put a body through gaps, because we, for the most part in the trade script, hold a belief of we're going to put a body candle through the gap. There is a little one here. And of course, you can use purple or any other color you choose. I use purple for my gaps. I know I did this one as a zone, because it's in that dip, and it's that candle that's breaking out of the dip. So I marked this differently. And this is a small gap here. So we can potentially assume that the price could come down and bounce off the bottom of this candle here, or push through it and then continue down to this larger gap, which I assume is going to continue down here. But if you felt like you needed some type of visual to just let you know where the next level was, saying that you wanted a closer take profit area based on how your emotions are aligned and you holding within the market, you can acknowledge that the weekly candle, at least, even if you don't want to do both, take one off, fine. At least the one that's first, the first true long breakout candle is coming down. The bottom of that candle body as a level where a price would bounce at somewhat. I can't say how much because we use the word bounce so loosely that sometimes it can sometimes feel like you mean like, oh, it's kind of like, and that's not necessarily what I mean. It could just kind of like take a little breath and blow right through it. It just really depends on how it aligns with the people in the news and the red folders. But because this is a weekly time frame that we're on, so you got to give it a couple days. But the whole point is we can see this, or we can give no days because things just can, the future can move fast. But we can label this as like weekly gap or weekly candle body. I did because I'm thinking body bottom. Excuse me for that. Yeah, I like Randy, that was bottom. Weekly candle body bottom. I don't know what it, whatever. I don't know. Like whatever codes work for you, as long as you know what it is. And then you can even do something like this. Let me just further example. Like parentheses. I need to be type right today. Gap. Okay, great. All right, whatever. I don't really care. Whatever works for you. But I think this is good for the weekly. And then we come down to the daily and we see how price left us on Friday, which was, like this. So price was really overall coming down. I thought it would come up a little bit more because it was a smaller gap. Like this gap on from a daily perspective did cross with wick. So expecting for it to like leave this area is high, but I also was thinking that potentially because of how it left it on a smaller time frame that it will come back up. Not saying that it still won't come back up, just thinking that it may take a little longer than I expected for it to come back up. So I'm just gonna hold through my positions because if I'm in positions to where as long as they'll come back up eventually, I just gotta wait. And I like truly, truly wait. And so and that may be that's fine because when I came to the 2 hour it looked different. I'll get into that in a minute. But first, from the daily, we can mark other support or resistance lines based off of fair value gaps and order blocks. And so as we first acknowledge the bottom side because that's where price seems like it's to be headed. And we see this fair value gap on the daily here that price did wick into. All right, we did wick into this fair value gap. And we can acknowledge it as such by putting, a line, a horizontal line on the top and the bottom of it, right? And we can also label it as such, right? We can do all those things to keep the chart clean and clear what we want to do. So daily, fair value gap open. And of course, I'm doing this because I am teaching, I'm going very thorough, but by all means, create your shortcuts. Like you just know what it means because it's your chart. Right? So we know just how far price can keep going down and then it'll be going down to the weekly candle body bottom or the gap. And then let's do this. Just to see where this line shows up on the daily. how that gap closes. All right, it's just that little red candle chop area. And I had a feeling it was going to be that. That's why they won't put that line there. But sometimes it's nice to check. So, all right, we're going to keep coming down into the major area weekly support zone. All right, in the weekly gap close, right? Between here and come all the way down. And we may just blow through it. So we'll see how we go. We never know. Keep falling down we go. So that's kind of how we'll leave the daily until I get to the 2 hour and see something else. On the top side or resistance side, we can acknowledge the fair value gaps that are like right here. We could. My only issue with it sometimes is that it'll throw you off and make you go, oh, it's going to come with fair value up at the top and it's going to do it right now. It's like, no, don't have to do it. It's daily. Like you got to really, really, really remember what chart you want. So with the daily, you really like this first one, like we know price is going to run up in there, like to some extent. For one, it's small from a daily perspective, and two, it's the first one after the candle that was just left on Friday. So tomorrow's candle will most likely come up in here and potentially do something, which I would like it to do. It'd be great. But it may not. It can also just not worry about it at all and just continue down and give us a trend of like 4 or 5 candles going down. Like it can do that too, right? Because it's all about probabilities. So it really is a matter of like you see it, you get excited of it, you can mark it, great, fantastic. But how far up is it really going to come now? Your order block is right above here. And it's a matter of, is it turning around yet? Because we know that price does need to get gravitated towards these fair value gaps in order blocks. But when? That ain't up to us. So we all have to, the only thing we could do is kind of wait for the formation and see when it's finally coming. So right now, I would mark the daily resistance taking the order block first and not the fair value gaps. The order block first and not the fair value gaps. Why? Because I don't know when they want to come back for the fair value gaps. And they're not going to disappear. So until they're ready to come back for them. So you can mark them then when the chart changes. Let's keep it simple for now, because you're going to go down to the 2 hour and you're going to mark some smaller levels in between here anyway. So let's just keep it simple. So if we come down here to the daily and we're looking for resistance, I would take this order block. And what I would do, I know the close of the order block saying that there is a fair value gap right on the other side of it is going to be up through the opening of that fair value gap since it didn't finish. And again, you can label it however you want to label it. You can label it the fair value gap, resistance, zone, blah, 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 out of, it's just like on the other side. And it should wick up there. But what it's really going to do before it even does that is if it comes up to this order block and something gets pushed with through here, usually what it'll do is it'll at least come, because this part is not as guaranteed, this higher fair value gap area at 42.81. But what is more guaranteed is the 42.68. What is more guaranteed is the 42.68. Because that breakout candle from this little smaller order block here, price will come up and with at least the close of the candle or the open of the candle, since the candle went down, the open of this candle body. And that could be a target for you. So 4268 or 4269, now that I readjusted the line. And whole numbers are great to trade off of. So they most likely get filled. That's why. Again, we have two fair value gaps. Excuse me, I don't know why. Two fair value gaps back to back from each other. And this is where that little gap comes in. So I'm going to farm here based on the situation of this order block and these fair value gaps. I'm going to go into the 2 hour. We don't have a turnaround yet. I'm going to go to the 2 hour from here and continue to chart. All right. And you just kind of know when to do that. It's kind of hard for me right now in this moment to specify exactly. This is when you transition, and now from the daily, because of the way the candles look, but you transition. It's more, I can get defined it to some extent, but at some point you're gonna finesse in your own way when to be like, okay, I've charted enough on this time frame, and now I need to go down to the next time frame so I won't overchart my chart and it be confusing. That's what I'm overall getting at. All right, so down to the 2 hour, we see that prices come down to our daily fair value gap open. I haven't closed it just yet. We have a pin candle left right now. We're looking like it wants to continue down, but we know with this pin it could continue up, and we have a smaller 2 hour fair value gap. Okay, this is the gap that I thought it would come back and fill. So let me mark it with the very distinct color. A little pink in our life. All right, this is the gap that I thought would completely fill quickly, right? And what I was betting on, because it made this like loop. It whipped up in there. I thought it would come back, and then decided to come down, and then we gapped up the next day, or when the market opened back up at 6. And then I knew we would come back down to fill that gap, but I thought we would fill it to come back up, and we did not. We fill it to continue down. So great, fantastic. So I'm like, how far down do you want to go before you come up and address this gap? Now, if I go to the daily, you recognize that gap is not there in the exact same way. It is there, it aligns with the 2 candle gap, but you also notice that there has been wicks through it, right? Which means that it could take longer than what, I would prefer for price to come back to it, right? So we'll see, because I did get fixated on the gap on the smaller time frame because it's even there on the 15-minute, right? So I figured at some point price will have to come back up there. And I would figure sooner than later based on how many time frames I saw it on. So we'll see how it goes. I do believe price could be turning, as I look at the 15-minute here, could be turning around, just looking at candlesticks right now, like no additional lines needed, just based on the lines that we have, acknowledging gaps and things like that. Just looking at the candlestick. I can see how price could potentially be turning even right now. And even those candlesticks coming down doesn't mean it has to break down. The lows are a little lower here, so it is potential to break down. But this pattern is really, really choppy, so it's really, really hard to tell at the moment on what exactly what it wants to do. And we'll see what it does, tonight when it comes on in about 15 minutes. If we want to continue down, because I can see it continue down to at least close the daily fair value gap once again, because I think it already did that. Let me come back out to the daily. No, not yet. So we'll come down, close the daily fair value gap once and for all, and then maybe have a better retracement back up, especially since this retracement back up would be in alignment with this larger order block back here. So it may be a hard spike. Maybe. Emphasis on the maybe, please, please, please. Emphasis on the maybe, y'all. All right. And then if not, if it continues to come down, you guys know where it may be coming down to, and you have different levels that you can play off of to take profit and not hold too long. All right. So I actually wouldn't chart any more than this. You acknowledge a 2 hour time frame gap, and that's it. The only thing more I would do from here is Fibonacci. And if we wanted to do a Fibonacci, which we can, we'll take this swing high, which is at the October 24th, and come down to the swing low on Friday. And we see that we're like right at that low level where we should bounce back up to the 50% is right at that gap. So that's the move that I was also waiting for too, because even when I drew it a little shorter before it dipped lower, it was still kind of alluding to it coming back up to that gaps. And of course, if you're not already in this trade, you could take it at this lower level and ride it up to the 50%. And that would be an amazing futures trade. And I would recommend that if you trade the futures. If you do not trade the futures and you need to wait for SPY, then we'll just need to see what the futures are tonight. And then we'll be able to play our SPY move accordingly in the morning to capture any Globex gap liquidity that was left over, if it chooses to do so based on the patterns that were left over overnight on the futures. Sometimes it can do it, sometimes it can don't, sometimes it can be a hard read, sometimes it can be an easy read, sometimes it can be a hard read. So it just depends. We don't have any Forex factory folders tomorrow, so keep that in mind as we are looking for these plays. All righty. We still good? Y'all still good? We still chilling like a villain? All right. All right. So just give me a second to type in the chat if y'all need to. No hands going up. All right, cool. So from futures, we'll go to SPY, and then I will have you guys drop in the chat what tickers you guys want to focus on for this call today, outside of any others that I just already have, but I'll prioritize what you got. And let me know. All right. Let me know. All right. So SPY. SPY, of course, looks a lot like our friend, the S&P 500 futures. And it is cleared this little order block level here. It has not come down to this fair value gap yet on the weekly time frame, and it may not. It may not want anything to do with it. But we will see. I would prefer a body through it. So what we could do for charting SPY from the weekly top down analysis today is we can acknowledge that because it's right on the other side. We can acknowledge a fair value gap as support. If you like, you can always choose to take the bottom level of this candle here and say that price is probably going to turn around. I know price likes to poke down further sometimes beyond the order block itself just a bit. Give me 1 second. Thank you, Marsha. 1 second. Chicken biscuit is here. All righty. Thank you all for your patience. So we can do the 405.64 as like a prep area where price will potentially bounce or come through there. It may bounce earlier than that. It may come, it may miss it completely because it is through the primary parts of this order block. If it's up to price action or something, it's going to come down into this candle here that was created on April 10th. So the week of April 10th and into the legs of the W and things like that. So that's one level to start off with. As we come down to the daily, I'm sure we'll find a closer level. So we can leave that for now. I'm always thinking not overcloud the chart, right? Because you gotta do top down, you gotta add more lines. So just take the big parts right now. So let's coming up to the resistance side of things. We can look at SPY, the 44.33 level with this shoulder pattern here and the opening. So it's up to you, trader's choice, definitely more so on this one, if you're going to take the opening of the fair value gap. And of course, we don't want to miss this because this is a whole gap here. So I'll get to it in a second. But I'm just acknowledging the major candlestick patterns right now. I just want you guys to vibe with me for a second. And then I'm not saying this gap isn't one either. So we'll get there. But my eyes went here first. So we can acknowledge it by a weekly fair value gap like this, right? Or you can use the top of the candle body. That's trader's choice. Now let's not, forget this gap that's in here at 419 area on SPY. Tandra came back just in time when I was talking about SPY, which is amazing. And it's between 419 and 421. This little gap here, it has been wicked through now. It has been wicked through, okay? It definitely has been. And which is the reason why it may take some more time before it comes back. Okay, so we have to give it that time. And then of course we have the lower gap that has been wicked through as well, but it's right here, right? It's right here at 398, 395, right? Okay. So that's kind of what we're looking at for SPY from the weekly. And then as we come down to the daily, right? Okay, so we know this is a gap. We know this is a weekly fair value gap, which I can acknowledge because that's a little specific. Fair value gap close. All right, and we know my solid lines are weekly lines. Okay, so so as price is coming down here, we see that we actually have a daily physical gap. It's not what I meant to do. It's not with it. Nothing fancy here, just daily gap. Open, of course, open to close. And so we won't forget, and then we'll make this one dashed for daily. And then the close being at, so the open at, wait, okay, this is a double gap issue. Oh my God, okay, it looks like it. So I'm looking at candle on Wednesday, May 3rd, May 4th, May 5th. It's like it gapped down and then it gapped up to gap the gap, which may not close. Just saying. Oh, I got two lines here. Okay, so we have this gap. That's the most recent, and 408.86. And then the close, I would say from that, just this fair value gap down here as well. But if I take it to the body, that's 406.99. If I take it to the daily fair value gap itself, that's 407.34. Transport choice, be careful. I'm going to take the 407.34 to close the daily fair value gap just because I know how daily is stronger. All right. We're good. We're good. Okay. Still flowing. Let's go down to the 2-hour on SPY and see what we got. Oh, let me not forget this daily gap here. Sorry, 1 second. This one, we did wick through it, right? And so we can daily gap open to the upside. All right, and I'll just mark the close. Okay, 416 to 451. All right, boom, bam, pow. 2-hour. Yay, we're getting somewhere. All right, so as you can see how our lines are lining up on the 2-hour. Now on the 2-hour spot, we have a tweezer bottom that price closed with on Friday, as long with kind of like matching lows because those wicks are at the equal levels and those called matching lows. I'm not sure how far price wants to retrace back up. We do have a wick and a fair value gap, but it also aligns with the physical gap, which may make it a little more resistance or harder to come up. Plus, we have this thick behind fair order block, on the 2-hour that is in the way, and the fair value gap closes right here. So that I would expect price to come down, chop, do a little dance, make a little love before it comes back and get down tonight at the 416 if it came back up. I know it was really corny, but I feel like I did that very smoothly. So we're going to, and that's just if it were to turn around at this level, since we're in a major area of support and gaps and all of that, and we know that price can come close to a gap, but not yet touch the gap, and then finally come touch the gap, then take the gap. Woo, y'all got it. All right, so that's the spot. So for as far as like some more support or resistance lines, I would leave this here. The only thing I would think I would mark is 2 hour resistance. Actually, no, take that back. I would mark this 2 hour fair value gap with alerts and then want to check this area here and see where it goes. So I would want 411 close with alert. I would want the next gap on the other side to see if it does 414 alert. And I want to see if it will go through there or not. And I would want to know if I could enter here 411 and ride it through there as it comes towards the next fair value gap, knowing that paying attention to the patterns as confirmation to know if it's taking this out as like a fair value gap. But of course, it's an order block, but it still takes it out or not. And it just comes down to candlestick patterns. So I will be looking at that. You can also put an alert if you want to get, a little fanciful with it. You don't mind a few extra lines. You can do the 41124 if those couple cents matter to you to see exactly how this gap feels. But overall, like this is what I think we'll be looking at for the top side. And there's nothing else on the bottom side because we know it's going to hit that gap on the bottom side. Except the only thing I think to put is an alert at the 408 to know that if it's going to go into that daily gap on the bottom side, you'll know about it. But that's about it. And there is your SPY chart. And of course, we have more gaps below, though, with the 405 being this major weekly support. Below that, we're getting into some additional gaps with SPY, which of course you should mark on the daily, and you can mark at either as gaps or support or however you want to do it. But I don't want to overcrowd it right now for at least the immediate move tomorrow. Just kind of leave this. I'm thinking just like next day, right? Unless you're a swing trader, you're thinking multiple days ahead, you can go on, you can consider that. But this is a major area of support that I think that price is going to take a little bit of struggle to get all the way through to the other side. So I'll be patient. All right. Any tickers? 6 o'clock, an alert went off on futures, and we are headed a little bit up to the upside. We gapped up significantly. Woo! Because that's what I wanted, because that's the position I was in. I knew I wasn't going to lose on a position. Wouldn't be surprised if it hurry up and run down. If you guys do want to take this move down and close it, this would be, it should come down at some point. So I'm on a 2 hour time frame. This is 10 handles just on the way down to close this opening gap. This is a good gap. Again, there's this gap up here that I'm just like too convinced the price like gotta come back. I wasn't expecting it. I got hit with slippage for it to come down this far, but it will come back down and fill this gap and continue back up potentially. If I'm wrong because this is a tough shoulder to get through. I'm relying on the fact that it's a gap here that's really going to pull price through, and we have so much liquidity this week, and important liquidity that it may need to grab that liquidity in order to make like the move that it needs to make. So, cool. Price I was down a little bit more, but now I am up a lot better. So this is great. Great. Awesome sauce. So I'm just gonna hold this through till it comes back. Yeah, that's the plan. All right. Because that's now like a beautiful cradle looking pattern on ES. Kim, I see you, my love. I see you. You want the trade desk and you want Microsoft. Let's get into it. So you either gonna ride this down with something or not. I'm not, just because I'm more betting on it going up. And we'll see if I want to switch positions with it. But this is a nice trade, actually, the scalp right now. Hopefully you guys jumped in because I would have if I wasn't already in a different way based on like last week's moves and stuff like that, but in holding a position out. But yeah, so I would definitely, it's 10 handles, so I would definitely just jumped all over this and scoop this up and been out and either be done for this Sunday afternoon and or and get back in around 9 o'clock. All right. So from here, we have 6 handles left, which is a decent amount of change. It's up to you guys if you're going to take it or not. There it is. It's clear as day. I mean, here's where it really forms right here on 2 hour. Oh, hush. So it's coming down. And that's your little gap trade for futures at 6 p.m. I wouldn't say every day on Sunday or every day during the week, but most days, depending on how the gaps, if it gives you enough handles, I would definitely just go for it. No hesitation, just go for it. Depending on the candles, of course, but you still don't want to hesitate. You want to trust what you're reading. Give me 1 second. I'm being fussed at by a 6-year-old. All right. I have a 6-year-old going on 16. And whenever she chooses to come to me is when I'll address her. But for now, we'll continue business as usual. So let's go Microsoft. All right. So Microsoft, let's do a weekly top down. So this little W pattern that has been formed on the weekly looks promising-ish. Emphasis on ish, because I don't like the way it's kind of being rejected from this level up here, which makes me not trust that it's upward push up that I would expect it to have. It may actually want to break down to the bottom here. Let's take a look at the daily and see what's up. Kim, what were your overall analysis before I get deeper into mine? Were you expecting calls or puts? Is she still here? She's still here. Okay. You can put in chat, jump on mic, whatever floats your boat. Anybody else who has studied Microsoft?
Okay, I can't seem to get my phone to work. I'm on both my phone and my computer because I just sat down, but okay. So you could probably hear me on my computer and not my phone. Not
Well, we can hear you. That's all that matters, at least right now.
because I didn't want you to hear the background information, the background and stuff, but what I was trying. Make sure you didn't hear me. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. That my. So I did Microsoft on the daily, and I noticed that like Thursday it had a long red candle, and then Friday it had another engulfing candle. However, they're both red, so I don't know if that would mean going up because they're both red. One is not, the long candle is not green. And it looks like it did wick up into a retracement there, but then there's a fair value gap on the 1 day above it. And then if you look right below, there's a fair value gap before it hits a support area down at 313, 309, but then there's another support right below that. So I'm not sure. I'm just going to look and see where it's going to go, because there's also a resistance gap up in a gap. I mean, a resistance zone up in a gap area at 341.44 to 347.11. There's a gap area up there. So I don't know which way it's going to go because I haven't been here. And as you can see, it was kind of choppy for the last week or so.
It was
Tuesday, October the 10th to, for 14, well, not 14 total days, but probably about 10 days, it was kind of choppy. It was just in this like little area going back and forth, and then it went up, and then it came back to that same area. So if
And
I
that was
go
because
back
of
in
earnings.
time, yeah, it's been in that area for a while. So I just wasn't sure. That's just one of the ones I'm looking at.
So from the weekly, I mean, it's doing a pattern at least right now where it's not like I'm not saying it wouldn't give a significant move you can play off of. You would just have to know how Microsoft moves. But overall, it's in that like chop zone of movement. And so it would be a little challenging to play. The only reason why it ran up like this and then ran down is because of earnings. And then now we're back down in this area, and it's a decision of do you want to break through or, like you said, run back up. And when I look at the 2 hour, there's a little bit of part of me that wants to say you may want to run back up to a certain extent. I'm not sure how much based off this 2 hour fair value gap, um, and the fact that there's a straight tweezer top in the middle of it. But we do have the finishing off of this gap here, and I think I saw it on the daily too. So the daily gap, $347 is the daily gap close, with the open being at 341, and it's almost there. Um, as far as the body of the candle goes, and we'll see if it makes it there. And if I come to the 2 hour, so I mean, it almost wicked up there. So we may have to come back and deal with that, saying that's a gap, but it rejected out of there so bad. I don't know how much strength it may need to pick up from here. These lows are higher, so it did kind of run up, which yeah, great. But I don't, it's hard to tell in this type of situation with earnings and stuff like that if this one is a stronger one to hold up because it just doesn't look as strong as of a one, to be honest with you. It may come down, and that's what I was looking at from the weekly, because the weekly gave me signals that may not want to stay up either because it's failing to like really make highs at this 345 level. So I would expect it to probably come down in a short time. Give me 1 second, you guys. All right. So I'm thinking Microsoft will come down now. Exactly where, obviously, we could potentially touch this fair value gap. So that's like one potential starting point. 323. Another point, levels 325. But of course, you want to try to hold it through all the way through here. So one of my daily. This is green and green. All right, Microsoft. And the trade desk.
Now that's the one that I'm actually in.
Okay.
When I came back on Friday, I think is when I got in. I might have traded like 3 different trades on Friday. Let me see. I don't know which one.
Now the trade desk, I think it's just gonna plummet. I don't know. Look, I just feel like
make some money on a put, and then I'm in a put on something that was supposed to get out, and it didn't. I hope it doesn't plummet because I'm in a call on my trades. It's possible. I agree with you.
well, based on the bounce that it just hit, right here with this wick and things like that, it could bounce. I don't know where you got it in for your call. It could bounce up to where it may save it, but I don't believe right now that the trade desk is in a position to really make a turnaround or a significant move up. I think with this like steady upward flow that was back in March and things like that, price just like what I'm trying to say, it's probably gonna like come for all of that. And then down here in this thicker order block is where it'll get bounced because this is so small candles and it just doesn't seem strong that it would just like continue to just come down through here and level out somewhere between here 58 and 52 as like a weekly support zone. And then not saying that this couldn't hold, but it just doesn't seem strong. And then we have three, like the three mountaintop or the three peaks or whatever you want to say up here, and they're all lower, meaning that price is probably going to come down through here and test this order block. And so let me come back to the weekly. Let's see if I can put, because there's a weekly gap up here.
My weekly is like 62.5 to 60.5. And your weekly is 58 to 52.
I'm taking this I'm taking most of this. The pattern I'm using is the bottom of candle March 20th to the bottom of candle March 13th. March 13th to March 20th.
Oh, okay.
And I'm looking at this area. This
now
square right here.
Looks like it would have been engulfing, right?
It is a little
but if
bit,
I look at the last three.
You're talking these three candles?
No, I'm talking about the three in your box.
Oh, box?
Yeah. Yeah. That you drew. That green, red, and green. Go the long one and those two right there.
Okay.
The green, the red, and the green. It looked like it would have been engulfing, but that should have meant that
the green one is, and it did go up. No, it's engulfed.
I thought if it's on the other side, it's supposed to go. Okay.
Correct. If it's the other side that's engulfing, this would have been a harami, a bullish harami. So if you're looking at if you just do these two candles.
Oh, I wasn't doing those two.
That's the difference between harami and engulfing is the way it's facing. This is harami. So price shot up. This is a bullish harami. These two right here that are in my rectangle.
Okay.
That's the harami and price went up.
Okay. But if you look at the other ones, it looks, see that's kind of confusing because it looked like it's engulfing if I look at the other side from the other day.
This side does, but then what you do is you zoom out and you go, okay, what is the whole pattern telling me? The whole pattern is telling me that I've come down, I've hit a low, I came up a little bit, I hit another low, I'm coming back up, I made a high low that was higher. Because I would have got that confirmation regardless of the harami, right? So I made a new low that's higher, okay? Then I would have came in here and then I'm like, oh, I made another low. So yeah, I have the bearish signal, but it didn't give me a bearish candle. It gave me a bullish one. So that was a fake out because it never broke my previous lower high. And therefore, I would have known that the harami was the stronger pattern and price was going to go up because it never broke the bottom. This bottom at 48 because I'm looking at the whole pattern. So that's
Okay.
so when you see you got to do 2 candles, which is great. Step one, perfect execution, Cam. But then now come back when you're like, well, now the next 2 candles were basically contradicting the first two. Okay, so what is the whole pattern? Do you have a W? Do you have a cradle? Do you have a cup and handle? Do you have a J swoop? Do you have these larger cluster candle patterns?
So are we saying all that to say that
Whitney's
it's
like,
probably gonna come
oh,
back down
okay.
to
Like
that
I don't
zone?
say it again.
So are we saying that all to say that, are we saying that to say that it most likely will come back down to that zone?
It'll most likely come back down to the shoulder of like the bottoms that it made, like the breakout, which would be trend line. This is the breakout part. It's gonna come back and retrace where it broke out.
Okay. Okay.
Like
So
that's
I'll be
just
watching it this week.
So it should be coming down if the sentiment, and when, if all of us don't really want him to hike interest rates and he's going to do that, Powell, this week, then it's probably going to be down. Right? So, or probably run down enough even before he speaks. So, boom, bam, pow. There you go. And then now come to the daily and look at it. It's even more choppy, weak. These highs, these strong peak highs are getting lower. And I think it's just going to strike through. And then now you got a other gap that's even lower that closes all the way down here and hasn't finished close. So I could even more so see that price be, magnetized and pulled down to the 58. So yeah, like put it down, buy put. You like to hold 66 to 58. Sounds like a great trade. Sounds like a great swing trade. You convince price is going to, of course, it's going to chop, but this looks like it will come down. I ain't gonna lie. For the trade desk, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. Looks pretty good. Good job, Kim. Thanks for the trade.
Yeah, they have earnings in another week, so we'll see.
Okay. Even better. Thanks to acknowledge we even know how to trade it. Any other tickers? Anything else? Just give me all a second. If y'all think of anything, I'll go down the watch list. Just to do like a quick little overview, top-down analysis, and let you guys go by 6:30 and enjoy you all Sunday and trade the futures. Of course, we'll recap the futures right quick, but before I let you guys go, but we can do some of our favorites: Amazon, Apple, Adobe, things like that. If you guys don't have anything else, and we'll be good from there. Cool. All right. So let's look at Apple quickly. So Apple, again, strong peaks that are coming down. Nice little trend up that is not like a strong U or something that would like like a cup that would like catch price in so many ways. It's just like a little slant, like a slant can't catch price. You need like a cup. You need a cup to catch water, like let's do right here. So price is just kind of falling, tumbling, rolling down, and let it do its thing. I don't know how low it wants to go. Apple looks like it can go pretty darn low. I know you see these little dips. I don't trust these little dips. To me, the next biggest dip is down here at 147. And price gets all the way back down to there. Hey, Apple, you just gotta get better phones or do something else because what you're doing is okay, but it ain't all that. And then this is the larger, like I said, that cup handle, gotta catch water theory is down here. with the bowl, the cradle pattern, and that bottom of the bowl, right, is 125, but the breakout of the bowl. So every bowl, if I squish this up a little bit, you can see a little bit better. Every dip in every bowl will have a bowl pattern and then kind of like a table shelf on the side of the pattern. Same with W's. So W's like two bowls with a shelf, right? And that's what I'm doing this. A shelf on the side that that price will kind of chop up in before either continue up or failing the pattern. So in this case, because this is where price broke out, this is where I believe price will come back to. It will always come back down to where it previously broke out from, as a target number one. So, with that being said, I'm thinking price, and I'm seeing this weekly. Oh, no, this is the daily. Let's go out to weekly, Randy. Oh, wow. Let's go out to weekly. Okay, see the shoulder, see? Dip, shoulder. All right, cool. Now we all see on weekly. So I will come where price broke out, 154. We can potentially do this little area here with these two pins here. You can acknowledge it as an area that may chop up a bit depending on what the news looks like, or it may not be super, super strong, but you could acknowledge it. All right. Just because it kind of leveled, it plateaued. And that's the reason why I'm acknowledging it, because it plateaued a little bit. Okay. But this is the major plateau down here, right? This is your order block. We know this. This is your like major one down here from 147 to 154. Boom. Okay. And then you have your bull dip down here. All right. So price on Apple could really be coming back down to 154 from the weekly perspective. So long-term puts a go on Apple. Good. Y'all can see that. Y'all can see us leaving this top area. All right. And if I put some areas of resistance, of course, I can acknowledge this little weekly gap from last week's candle. That's fine. It's there. Great. Woo-ha. Fantastic. All right. Just because it's small, it's in there. And the only reason why I'm like, woo-ha, fantastic, because all it takes is one day this week of a great, like, little run up to just wick through there, but it not really sustain, and then price come tumbling back down to where that whole thing. So, not really worried about it. The weekly fair value gap in this larger one at the top is more significant to me than this smaller one, since we have so much chop within this area. So that would be, where I would acknowledge resistance, 182. Of course, you could take top of the tweezer, top-ish candle. This is the ish. You could take the top body of this one. This is what I would do in this situation, since it's not a complete level top. But that would be about the 188, 187. But I, for now, would just acknowledge that, because price has a more bearish sentiment. So you're more worried about where your target's going to be at the bottom right now than the tops. And price is just going to continue to move down. I think we're going to finish this gap on the daily here. All right, this daily gap here at 165. I think we can finish that off. 168 to 165, not too bad of a trade. And then we potentially could dip down further with the news and break all these levels. All right, and we have so many little fair value gaps and gaps down here that it could, slowly bounce its way down. And then let's go over to, let's see, who do I want? Adobe. Let's look at Adobe. All right, so a lot of these lines were from last week. I don't know if I want to clear this chart completely since we're on to the end of the call, so I have to start all over. I think I did a few examples for those who, are still learning on how we chart here in the Trader's Grid. But Adobe is, obviously these colors would change a bit, so there'll be a few lines that just readjust. Let's go out to the weekly. All right. So the weekly levels with the solid lines are marked at 573 resistance and 490 support. Oh, with price looking like it really wants to come down and fully strike through the 490 at the bottom. So if I came out to the daily, that was 2 hours. The daily time frame to move this line. I would be probably acknowledging, the first little fair value gap that was kind of closed, but it's still there at 498. And I could take price to 498 and that would be, great. That's about a $10 move. That's more than lovely with Adobe. And it's fine. This prices look like it's coming back down here. Then if it breaks this level, so we would want a confirmation on the break of this level so we can add an alert. And if it comes back further down into this lower order block, then we can acknowledge, or we can acknowledge now. We can acknowledge it so we can prepare for it. Let's do that. 484 as a level that price can come down to next. 490, of course, and 498, then 490, and then 484, right? And then you would just have to trust your instinct if you could play all the way through there. And if you come back up through the weekly, playing through the 484 will be taking price through the fair value gap and continuing down to finish out the body of this larger weekly candle, which price most likely likes to do when it's approaching a smaller order block like this. So 484.93 is definitely a target for Adobe on the way down that we can go for. Okay. So Adobe. And then what was the other one that we just went over? Apple. Okay. Down positions. All down. All right. So it'll be like a swing trade, but then day trade or swing trade, depending on how you want to do it. Day trade would be the 498, swing trade would be the 484. Buy time. All right. And then we'll take a look at the Dow and the NASDAQ and then futures, and then we'll if you have any other questions or last call for tickers, I will let you guys have them and then we'll go from there. So as we can see here with the NASDAQ futures tonight, it has gapped up like the S&P 500 futures. And again, it has this little gap up here that, again, I felt that it would at least wick through sooner than later. Man, I put a body through it, but at least wick through, and that's what I was betting on. So price is in this gap, lower gap. I guess I hope you guys can see this here. Let me mark it. So that's 14,098 is the close of that gap. I'm on the daily here. Wrong. Okay. And we may come up, gather more sellers, and then come back down to finish it out so we can close out this order block as a whole. Right. So that's that gap. Okay. And then this is the gap on the daily that I'm talking about to the upside. That's also kind of on the futures that I already showed you guys. Right? All right. This is what, and then the 2 hour, this is what price is doing. Here's that gap area that I was speaking of. Here's this wonkified cradle pattern that's doing, but it's doing it. It's just giving me a run for the money, but it's doing it. It's going up. This is why I held my positions. Okay. At the moment, I do believe it'll close the gap, but I do believe it wants this little gap up top. And it's just because of the way it's like curved and the reject, it's just the way the candles look that gives you that sentiment, nothing else. Because if the candles look different and it had this gap, but everything was still more rejected down to the bottom, I wouldn't feel like that. I'll feel like, okay, we're not gonna run up and clear this gap soon. Like we'll do it maybe a lot later because it looked like price just left the area. And we'll see overall what it does. And then going over to the Dow, right, it gapped up as well. We can clear the lines. Well, to the weekly. Okay, so let's clear all this. These weekly lines really don't matter. All right. So we're pricing quite a bit of movement on the Dow side of things. All right, so let's look at start from scratch with the Dow here. So we have the close of this fair value gap. 32, 345. And then we have open up a new one at 32,027. We need to run up into this candle some. How much? I don't know. The whole thing is ideal because the next candle or the next order block in fair value gap, but rather on a weekly is all the way up here. So that would be resistance from the weekly perspective, 33,928. Like that. Now we can come down to the daily and we can see where price clearly turned around from that area. From the top, it has come down and has broken past the previous low. That's all check marks we want to check off. A bit, we haven't broke past the wicks, but we did break past the bodies, which is a pretty good indicator that we would continue down to here. Here's our 2-hour or daily order block from the W, our shelf, our shoulder that price usually retraces down to. Missed it a little bit, but it looks like now finally wants to come back a little bit further. Will we get a little bounce up? Potentially, but it looks like we may want to come down. And then the 2-hour run up. It's not going to be too long of a run up because we've got a lot going on up here, but at least to this area, 3. I'm on a 2-hour time frame. Let me change this to some dotted lines. 32,688 is where price will most likely come up on this 2-hour, and then on a daily, that's about 50% of our daily, as we know it could do that. And if it wants to take more, if we want to acknowledge the close of the daily fair value gap from the top, we can do that as well. You just don't want to get lost in the sauce with it. And we come down to the 2-hour and recognize that price could potentially have the potential to retrace all the way to this small 2-hour order block, right at 32,835 on the Dow. So we have some pullback, but overall we do have a bearish sentiment leading into this week. So that's why I do believe price may go this week, as it bounced around and played with our feelings a bit last week, but it's all good. Okay, it's all good. Bounce around and came tumbling down, like it's all good. So but it was fun. So we're gonna see the little run-ups we have this week. Well, next week with some potential pull downs. Look forward to all this news. See you guys. Make sure you pay attention to Forex Factory more now than ever. Or just come to the Trader's Crib schedule and see it before November, and moving forward, we will align better with Forex Factory so we can be moving together in unison and making this money together. If you guys have no further questions for tonight, y'all good? Y'all gravy? We good? Y'all take care for tonight. I'll see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning. And y'all trade safe tonight. Peace out. Bye.